talking Motel Acacia. Now this one is directed and co-written by Bradley Liu and stars J.C. Santos. Now this is a bizarre film. Essentially what we have almost like an alternate reality, I suppose, where we have an exaggerated Trump's America, I suppose, where immigration has gone one step further into having to deal with it. Now, the crux of the story is we have this older guy who has I'm assuming a half Filipino son. And they are in charge of this kind of, essentially this station, which is the hotel, I guess you want to call it. And essentially this is a device for essentially getting rid of unwanted immigrants, and they are paid to do so under false pretenses. Now, how they get rid of them is a supernatural twist. There actually seems to be some type of tree demon that is living within the walls of this kind of like quote-unquote motel. And when people kind of go to sleep in these beds, it essentially consumes the men and impregnates the women. Now, the guys who work there are under strict instructions not to bring any women into this kind of facility for obvious reasons. However, during one particularly violent blizzard, a group of stragglers end up there and all hell breaks loose. So that's your basic plot premise. Sounds intriguing, and it is an intriguing movie in a lot of ways. So let's talk about what works first of all. I have to say, this movie has some very interesting visuals. This kind of like this barren, bunker-esque facility that they're using does look very oppressive, and obviously it's meant to be an exaggeration of the kind of, you know, the quote-unquote holding facilities for immigrants, primarily in America and things like that. So it's made to look very oppressive, and it's almost its own character in a certain degree. I also think the visuals in regards to this kind of creature that tends to, we don't know a lot about it, but it seems to be primarily gets its victims through like this kind of, this bed obviously kind of made of wood, and when people lay in it, they kind of get sucked into the kind of like the mattress, so it's turned into almost like a semen-like fluid. They kind of drown and get consumed in it whilst it impregnates the women, if any women kind of go in there. Again, and we see this kind of like this sort of creature almost like squirming around underneath there. Some pretty interesting kind of visuals. And as the movie progresses, we have women that do seem to give birth to some type of smaller creatures, which again, special effects wise, I think is to a fairly good standard. So it's an intriguing premise, there's some great visuals. However, narratively, this movie is horrible. This to me is a trend that I have seen in many low-budget horror films. And let me explain how I think these things work. I think the problem is with low-budget filmmakers, they have a somewhat, you know, complex idea. Is everyone involved in the movie knows what is supposed to happen, so they make it knowing what they are trying to tell. But they don't have things like test audiences and things like that, because it's a lower budget indie flick. So there's no real feedback from anyone not really involved in the film. So when you watch it, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I feel the biggest letdown in this movie is there's virtually no setup in it. We are kind of just thrown into it, and we don't really know the circumstances, even the world that we're in. We don't even realise this is kind of going to be like almost like an alternate what if kind of style universe where immigration laws have kind of gone one step further. I actually had to read about it in the kind of the description. I was like, oh, I get it. That's what they're supposed to do, but you shouldn't have to do that. The movie should be able to kind of give you that kind of that narrative thread, and it doesn't do that. It also doesn't really make it clear about what's actually kind of going on. So unfortunately here, although the movie I think has actually got some good ideas, the way the movie is then told to us, it just doesn't make sense. And you thought there are large chunks missing here. I've got to say also the characters are poorly really kind of fleshed out, because our central character, JC, you know, he is complicit in killing people, yet he is our protagonist. And are we meant to root for him? Because there at times he's seemingly killing innocent people, but they are almost in the movie almost treats them as antagonists. So we don't really have a central protagonist to follow. And then we have this female character, and again, her backstory, she seems to be involved with the people who work there, but it's not really clear what it is that she's doing. I think she's procuring the immigrants and stuff like that and bringing them to this place, but she seems to kind of like turn on them for no reason. The storytelling here is poor. So this movie, I feel, does have some good ideas, but it is poorly executed in a narrative sense. Some of the acting as well, I've got to say, is a little bit over top. There are also some plot holes here. I don't want to spoil it for you because I don't want to kind of go into spoil it and things like that. But there's some of the things don't really make sense. And I think, again, you can kind of go back to saying this could be explained, but it just isn't. So therefore, it's kind of a plot hole. And again, it doesn't really, you never really keep it fully invested in this movie because you don't really feel the movie has a good enough narrative. So it becomes a interesting visual experiment, and I think things like the cinematography are good. The effects work is good. The acting is kind of a little bit hit and miss. I like some of them, but some of the kind of the sequences here, the dialogue again, just seem a little bit horrible at times. So I don't 100% put it down to the actors though. But it ultimately becomes just a bit of a jumble, this movie, and not particularly interesting outside of a few visual flourishes here. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.